Well, it's early spring now and I feel it's time to do some foraging. I've missed it over the winter. Over the road there's a magnolia tree which is heaving with really lovely tight buds. We haven't had any frost to spoil the flowers either. Quite often that happens with magnolia, just as they're coming into bloom there's a frost and all the petals go brown, but they haven't this time, which is great. I've got a magnolia tree, but it's a stellata, which is a different variety and hasn't got the tight buds. It's more of a star-shaped flower. Anyway, my lovely neighbour has said I can have as many of those flower buds as I would like to pickle, because that's what I want to do. And look, I've been and picked some. How beautiful is this bowl of magnolia flowers? Oh, I love it. So these have been washed and the water's been shaken off, and we're going to put them into a jar with a lovely vinegary, sweet, slightly salty pickle. Let's give it a go. First thing I'm going to do is make the vinegar. So in here I have 500 mils of rice wine vinegar. You can get it from the supermarket or you can go to a Chinese supermarket, wherever. Rice wine vinegar, 500 mils. Then I've got half a cup of white granulated sugar, and that's going to go in there, and half a teaspoon of salt, and that's going to go in as well. So I'm just going to take this over to the stove and heat it up so that the sugar dissolves and it gets really nice and hot. I'll be back. Right, I've brought that to the boil and it's got to simmer for 5 minutes. So while it's doing that, I'm going to get these petals into the jar. And what you need to do is you need to sort of pull off the outer petals, because inside you find this little stamen. I think that's what it is. And you don't want that. So get rid of that. And then you want to just try and get as many of these petals into your jar as you can. I'm going to try and stand them up so they sort of slot inside each other. You don't want that little husk either. So I'm going to do that. Take away that little bit. So it's just the petals you're using. Okay, so that's filled the jar. Get rid of those. Get rid of those. And I'm going to get the brine which has been simmering. I hope I've got enough. Oh, boiling vinegar is quite something. So let's just pour that over the top. If I don't have enough, I'll just make some more. I'm very bad at measuring things and making sure the right amount of things are in the right place, and you know, I'm a bit of a winger. I shouldn't be really, not when it comes to things like this. Yeah, I'm gonna need some more. Okay, I'll just go and boil up some more. Do you know what though? Look, having said that, they've all sunk down. How interesting. They've really sunk down. Actually, I reckon I can put a few more in there. Oh my word, the smell is quite incredible. Quite incredible. Just because I had a few of those left. Might as well. There we go. Well, you really should make sure that the flowers are right submerged right into that vinegar. Okay, I think that'll do. That should be okay. I'll just make sure that they're pushed in. I'll have a look at them every so often. Now they're only going to take a couple of days until they're ready. There you go. Right. So lid on. When they're cool, they'll go into the fridge, and in 2 or 3 days they'll be ready to eat. And we'll come back and give them a try with something. In the meantime, we're going to make another thing which you can forage at this time of year, early spring. So I'm going to go and get my boots on and go into the woods. Wild garlic, or ramsons, another name for them, are quite easy to spot with their long pointed leaves and unmistakable fragrance. As with all foraging, only take what you need and don't pull up whole plants. A leaf here and there soon fills up your basket. While you're around, you might find some young nettles. I'm just going to pick a couple of heads. Yes, they are a bit stingy, but hey, I'm tough. I'm just going to pick a couple just to take home for a refreshing brew. Back from the woods, and I've picked a really nice load of wild garlic. I'm going to make some pesto, of course. That's what everyone makes with wild garlic. I'm also going to ferment some. But this is the pesto. I've washed this really thoroughly and I've been really careful about how I've picked it. Right, so I've got 2 big handfuls of wild garlic. In there. When I say 2 big handfuls, you know what I'm like. That amount, whatever that looks like. I think it looks like 2 big handfuls. Right, bit of that. And then I'm going to put a couple of spring onions in there just to give it a little bit of a, I don't know, a little bit more body. Just chop them up. And then I've got 80 grams of blanched almonds. I've soaked those almonds in boiling water, and that means you can slip the skins off, just for the look of it really. I mean, the skins are good for fibre, good for you, but I just didn't want it to look like a sort of muddy pesto. So that's in there. Then I've got the same grams, 80, of grated Parmesan. If you're a vegan, I think you could try this with some nutritional yeast instead of the Parmesan. That's what I reckon. I'm going to put a bit of pepper in there. And about a teaspoon, this tiny spoon is about half a teaspoon, about a teaspoon of good sea salt. The juice of half a lemon. And good old extra virgin olive oil, and I'm just going to glug this around. Pesto likes a decent amount of olive oil, and that will help it chop up nicely. Right, I'm just going to whack this through the food processor. Let's have a look at that. Look at that. That looks great. I'm going to have to give it a little taste, of course. Quite pungent. Oh my God, that is absolutely gorgeous. I do like the almonds in it. I think that gives it a really different, nuttier flavour. Not quite as rich as the pine nuts. Great. Right, this is going to go in a jar. And that will stay in the fridge for about a week. But it'll also freeze. You can put it in little pots and put it in the freezer. So this is a time of year to get your wild garlic, make pesto, put it in the freezer so you can use it throughout the year. How yummy. Right, we've got 200 grams of washed wild garlic leaves. Then we've got a 3% amount of salt. So that's 200 grams of wild garlic. That makes 3% is 6 grams. So it's just the way it is. It's just the way the percentages work. Okay, and now I'll get that salt distributed through. And we're gonna squeeze it, just the same as when I made the Jerusalem artichoke ferment, if you remember. Anyway, you just got to work at it. Work, work, work. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And that is pushing the salt through into the cell walls and releasing the water. And it's gonna get briny. Release a lot of its juice. Oh, it smells amazing. You can hear it getting squidgy. There we go, starting. It's going to need a bit more yet though. Right, and then you get a nice clean jar. I'm going to use this jam funnel so that it doesn't ooze all over the edges. And the jar doesn't have to be sterilised or anything. You just have to make sure you've either washed it in plenty of hot soapy water or put it through the dishwasher. And all the liquid that came out needs to go in as well. Then I'm going to use the end of my rolling pin and squish it down. You've got to get as much air out as possible. Okay, and just as we did before with the other ferment, we're going to create a bit of an airlock with a plastic bag of water. So I'm going to pop that on top and make sure that that is pressing down. Get rid of you. Make sure it's pressing down on top and it's covered the surface. Where's that rolling pin? Just get it in there. Make sure it's excluding all the air. Okay, that's it. It's only a little bit, but you know, I only want it for a bit of a taste. So then I'm going to put this lid on. This is a kilner jar lid which has got a separate top, and it's quite a good way of keeping the air, the gas that's going to be produced from coming out actually. So I'm just going to do it up a little bit, and then that's like a little airlock, and we'll let some of the gas out. So we're going to leave that for a couple of weeks in the fermenting cupboard, which is just a shelf in my cupboard. This is a week later, and as you can see there are bubbles which indicate activity. This is going to need another week to ferment properly for a really good sharp flavour, and then I'm going to keep it in the fridge with the lid tightly closed. It'll be really delicious in cheese toasties or roasted vegetable wraps, or mixed with olive oil, chopped up, mixed with olive oil and spooned over grilled chicken or grilled meats, whatever you fancy. Right, I decided I had to try some of these pickled petals. try saying pickled petals. A peck of pickled petals. Anyway, I'm going to try them as if they were sushi ginger. Interesting, aren't they? Not the most attractive looking thing, but I'm willing to give it a go. So what I've done is I've made a deconstructed sushi, which is sushi rice with some cucumber and some seaweed, dried seaweed, and a bit of avocado and some trout from some leftover trout we had the other day, and some avocado with some sesame seeds on the top. So I'm going to do like this deconstructed thing. And I've got a little pot of soy sauce to dip it in. And then I've got a little bit of this sushi ginger. That's what I'm calling it. Pickled petals. I'm going to try it. That's so good. Do you know, they work. They really do. They're sweet because of the sugar and the vinegar, and vinegary, but they have that ginger flavour. That is amazing. Oh, I'll tell you what, I'm going to scoff the lot. Please have a go yourself and let me know in the comments if you have. You saw how easy it was. You really did. Just find a kind person with a magnolia tree that is in bud and in flower now. You don't want one which is too far over. Have a go.